Hey, hi, hello. Welcome to an all-new episode of Press YYZ, your favorite Canadian gaming podcast. You can catch the show weekly on youtube.com/PressYYZ, live on twitch.tv/PressYYZ, Wednesdays at 8 p.m. Eastern, or on your own time on your podcast service of choice. Before we get started, a reminder that, as always, we here at Press YYZ stand against discrimination of any kind. While we appreciate however you choose to give back to our show, there's no better way to support us than by being excellent to each other. On that note, speaking of being excellent, Kozi, there's something here we want to bring attention to.
Yes. So, everybody that is currently tuned in to watching this stream either live or after the fact on YouTube, or maybe on their own time on podcast services, I want to encourage all to take a moment and please consider donating to the Palestine Children's Relief Fund. As I'm sure you're aware by this point, many Palestinians are currently hurting in the wake of the horrific events that have been unfolding within their country over the past few weeks, and it goes without saying that providing even a small donation will undoubtedly go a long way to helping save lives. A link to the Palestine Children's Relief Fund can be found in the ticker below, and also in the chat. We will periodically be posting links to the fund there that you can go and access. So please go ahead and check that out. Hold off any donations that you might have for us this week. Certainly, we will still all be here by the end of next week.
Hopefully. We are also joined by Nathan McInerney. How you doing?
Not bad. It's been a busy few weeks for work. It's almost done. 2 more days left. I've been pretty much streaming all day for work, doing work fund streaming. So it's a different experience.
Yeah. Before we get started proper, a couple of glaring omissions from our podcast lineup today. Mitch is busy moving. You may remember, I think he may have brought it up that he bought a house at some point, and he was spreading himself a little too thin and needs to focus on that. So he's going to be taking some time off and getting settled in his new house and whatnot, getting all that finalized. As well, Alex Ballant is taking a little bit of a breather to focus a bit on some school that he wants to. He says he might be able to make it next week. Well, I'll keep my fingers crossed for that. Yeah, on that note, a couple other housekeeping things. This is not episode 69. So yeah, we're going to do an actual episode 69 like we promised the previous week. Once we get everybody back, and everybody's available.
Yeah.
Last week we took off for Victoria Day weekend. Once a few of us decided that we needed, they needed some mental health focus. We kind of all felt similarly in that regard. Kozi, you were going to say something.
I was going to say, even if we had not chosen to take last week off, it would have been a weird choice to do episode 69 last week regardless, considering that, last Wednesday, I feel, was the height of all the weird IGN controversy going on, and greater than that, I would say the wider internet really becoming aware of the plight that many Palestinians are currently facing in their country. Right. As we talked about at the beginning of today's stream. And so I feel like even then we were like, it's not exactly maybe the best choice for us to have this be our wacky bells and whistles episode 69 episode this week. And yeah, obviously we decided to delay it, and for now I think we're just going to be putting it off until we both have the full gang back together, but also we feel like the world is in a state where we can have ourselves a more joyous, humorous episode, the likes of which episode 69 would have to be.
Does that mean that the 69 could come from any time, from anywhere?
I feel like there's an innuendo in there somewhere, and I can't find it.
No. All right.
I try. Listen. I'm feeling a little under the weather. I got my COVID vaccine this past Saturday. My first dose of the Pfizer. I don't know if I'm currently feeling the effects of that finally, or feeling with the other health issues that I've been going through the past month or so. But yeah, if I sound a little bit off, that's my reason, and I'm sticking to it.
Am I the only person in this podcast, including our hosts that aren't currently here, that hasn't been vaccinated? Because I'm getting
next Thursday.
Next Thursday, I'm getting vaccinated tomorrow. So this Thursday,
I'll be the last
one you'll be getting.
To it. This is going to be one of two.
Okay. Do you know which one you're getting, or?
Oh, which one I'm getting? Nope, don't know.
It would be Pfizer or Moderna for you. But
all right.
Yeah. I got the Pfizer, so hashtag Pfizer gang,
I want the Pfizer.
Yeah. I like the techno. So I've watched some science videos on like SciShow and stuff like that. Especially leading up to getting the vaccine. What exactly is an mRNA vaccine, and how does it work? And I couldn't articulate it and reiterate everything that I've learned there, but it's actually super fascinating, and it's not this brand new thing that some people think it is. The idea of it has been being developed for so many years, and the technology, I guess you can call it, itself, not only were these vaccines a global effort to try and stomp out COVID-19, but the technology of the mRNA actually kind of helped make the vaccines even faster. That's why they were kind of the first ones to kind of figure it out. But I digress. This is a video game podcast. We should probably talk about some video games. How does that sound?
Sounds good.
Yeah. All right.
Yep.
Okay. So looking through the list here, Nathan, how's your Series X treating you?
Huh. That's right.
You're a PlayStation guy. What the hell?
I am a PlayStation guy. I've never owned an Xbox ever before in my life. My kids are still asking me why I bought an Xbox.
Your kids are stupid.
Ooh.
My wife just yelled. She's asking that too. So,
your wife is a lovely lady, I'm sure.
She is a lovely lady. She's a very lovely person. So everybody's saying compliments about you, dear. Anyways. So I guess I got the X because, number one, I don't want to miss out on the conversation with you guys, which I feel like I am for things like Outriders, which I completely missed out on. Yeah. It just wasn't something I could be part of that conversation. When Halo comes out, it'll be part of the conversation.
At least two of us will be way into it.
Yeah.
Maybe three.
So I was like, so why not try and take advantage and be involved in that? Game Pass is supposed to be a great deal. And so we can talk about that, but that's essentially where it came down to, is like, you guys are talking about it. I don't want to miss out. Game Pass has those games that come free to it, like from the initial run. So anyways, that's why I did it. It's definitely been an adjustment period. I've been playing a lot of Forza Horizon 4 on it, which is a fantastic game.
You were playing that on your PC a bit.
I was, and everything moved over actually onto the Xbox Series X, which was nice. So I was just able to pick up where I left off. It's much nicer playing on the big screen than my computer screen at not a 60 refresh rate. These monitors are 10 years old and not HDMI. So, yeah. So that's kind of where, like, the reasoning behind it. Now, that being said, as somebody who's only been a PlayStation guy jumping into the Xbox ecosystem, it's been a little tough. I'll be honest. I find the menus very hard to navigate, and I'm getting better at it now, but it's like somebody threw up apps on the screen and they're just kind of all there.
I have a very hard time, and I had both Xbox One and PS4, and in that generation, I played especially at the start, the majority of games on my PS4. And I found that as time went on, I just started to want to play my I just wanted to play on my Xbox just that much more for some reason.
The kitchen stool, yes, Park.
Sorry, I have people who
That's
talk in
okay.
the background. My apologies.
Yeah, it's totally fine.
That's okay. I've got ADHD, so I get distracted easily. So that's on me for not being able to follow through there. No, the I just found that I like even while they technically looked better on the PS4, I found that I was just gravitating more towards the Xbox and that ecosystem, especially at a point where I could plug the HDMI of my cable box into it and watch TV through it before that broke on my Xbox One, and now it's not even a feature on the Series X. But yeah, I would the Series X and everything with Game Pass and all that. I don't know. It just feels good.
Yeah, it's no question. It's a good deal for Game Pass. I played through the story mode for Marvel versus Capcom Infinite, which was a game I wanted to buy, but I never wanted to pay the price for because I kept hearing how terrible it was.
Mm-hmm.
So I finally got a chance. I just downloaded it, played it, and then deleted it when I was done the 3 or 4 hour story mode. So I can see how this works, but at the same token, I've probably played 15 different games and not stuck with any of them.
Yeah.
And I wonder if there's this wanderlust because you can kind of try everything.
It's almost like game rentals again in a way, right? Which is actually super interesting because you can just you would browse the store, you'd take a game home for the weekend, be like, oh, I don't like this, and not rent it again or not buy it or what have you. Kozi, you were going to say something?
Yeah, to go back to what you were saying at the beginning of the conversation, Nathan, I've definitely found navigating the Xbox Series X's UI a little confusing as well. It's still because it is a modern UI, developed by, modern UI designers, it's not the most confusing thing in the world, but it is definitely an adjustment coming from the PlayStation, Nintendo ecosystem. I've not played too many games off of Game Pass, so I don't have this entire stack of half-finished experiences, but you might recall from the episode that we did back at the end of last year, I did start playing a little bit of Ori and the Blind Forest, and unfortunately I have yet to get back to that game. Same story with Halo Wars, the first one. I remember, is it called Halo Wars Definitive Edition? The version that is on the...
I think it's a definitive edition.
Yeah,
I think that's what it is.
Same story with Halo Wars Definitive Edition, which I put a few hours into on that one stream I did a couple of weeks ago, and I haven't really gone back to it. I generally one of my kind of big kind of secret New Year's resolutions for 2021 has been to start and sit down and really finish whatever games I start and not to log a couple of hours into them. So I've not splurged and sort of gone out and tried, whatever Xbox Game Pass games have suited my fancy. I've really tried to only start the games that I feel like I've been able to finish. But yeah, it's something that I've, been wrestling with too.
Yeah. So I definitely played a lot of that's the one that's sticking. Forza Horizon 4. I keep wanting to say Horizon, and that's not right. That's the benefit of it, but it's a really fun game. Really engaging, racing to it. You get the car selection's amazing on it. I will say, because there's a little rumble in the triggers. After having the DualSense in my hand and playing some racing games with the adaptive triggers, it doesn't I can imagine what this would do with the adaptive triggers, and just wish that Xbox had implemented something like that, because the rumbles, it's a nice little sensation in the triggers, but the adaptive triggers are just so much better. So and I'm not trying to
Oh, no. That's so in the previous generation on the Xbox One, the triggers were exactly like that, right? Which was an enhancement from just the generic controller rumble that everything else was doing.
Yeah.
So in a way, like this was like a stepping stone to like for the competition and Sony to kind of create the adaptive triggers and like try and rethink how how that worked. So that's how I feel about it.
Yeah. So yeah, no, 100%. There's definitely some one-upmanship and Sony raising their game in terms of that. So yeah, no, that's good. And I finally figured out why I can now put to words why I don't love the sticks where they are on the Xbox controller. Now that I've been using it a little bit more.
Your opinion will be incorrect, but go ahead.
Okay, so I play a lot of games using the D-pad if it's a default option for controls, whether that's Tony Hawk or whether that's fighting games. And the D-pad's a little, even though it's in the same position as the stick, your thumb has to move further down because there's no stick popping up out of it. And it's more awkward to get to on the controller. And like I play, like if it's Tony Hawk, I'm playing with the D-pad. If it's like fighting games, I'm playing with the D-pad. If that's a control option.
So what you're saying is you actually do prefer to control your games where the stick is actually placed. It's just it's not a stick issue. It's the D-pad issue.
Yeah,
because
I guess
if the D-pad is in the position of the Xbox stick where it is currently on the PlayStation controller, then you wouldn't have a problem. But that is the exact layout of an Xbox controller.
Yeah, well, it's the stick's not in the right spot. It's like the stick's a little higher on the PlayStation controller because it doesn't get like pressed, because your thumb doesn't have to move as far in to get to the stick. Where if you're trying to press that D-pad on the Xbox controller, especially if you're trying to use it, I tried using it for Killer Instinct, and it's much harder to use. And awkward for your hands to get to it, because I'm not used to using control sticks to do these maneuvers. In fact, I actively try not to use those the sticks whenever I play fighting games. I always try to play with the D-pad, and it's much more accessible up there. And with the stick where it is, it's easier to get to on the PlayStation controller because your thumb doesn't need to go as far down on it. So your problem, as we've determined, your problem is not with the stick placement, it's with the D-pad placement. Because if your problem was with the stick placement, it wouldn't be a problem. Isn't that the same thing?
No. Because if you played the majority of games with with the D-pad, right? The games that you want to play, right?
Yeah.
All the other normal games should actually feel okay because you're putting your thumb where you would normally put the D-pad, which is where you're saying it's most comfortable.
Yeah, true. I don't know. So
I don't know.
That's kind of where I'm at right now. Like it's playing fine. I tried Halo Reach because it's the first game in the Halo collection. I know it's not first.
Yeah, it's canonically in the mainline Halo games. You know, it is both a spin-off and a direct Halo. Okay, no spoilers, but in terms of placement, Halo Reach is the Rogue One in the timeline.
Oh, interesting.
It's right there, if that makes sense.
Gotcha. Okay.
Which Halo game is Star Wars an Ewok adventure within the timeline?
I'm more interested in what one is the Christmas special, personally. Who can say? Only Alex can say.
Yeah,
but
probably
Balance
Halo
not here
DS,
tonight.
To be honest.
Yeah, sure.
I would like to play more Halo, but I think this is a game where I need to find a co-op partner to play with me with because I have no idea what I'm doing, and I am struggling against these in the second area with these guys who just keep absorbing my bullets, and I don't know how to kill them.
What difficulty are you playing on? Normal? Or normal? Yeah, because it goes easy, normal, heroic, legendary.
Yeah, I'm playing on normal, and I've been pretty much fine. But there are these giant guys, and they just keep absorbing all my ammo.
Yeah,
and I don't know how to kill them. So I think I need to find somebody to co-op this with, and I've never done really co-op in a game before. So I think this could be an interesting experience to do that with. So if you're out there and you'd like to be my introduction to Halo and play with me, let me know.
So does that game have like 3 or 4 player co-op, or is it just 2?
I do not know the answer to that question.
I think Reach is 4, because
that which would make sense.
Halo 3 was 4 as well, right? So
I believe Halo 1 only had 2 player co-op, correct?
Halo 1 had 2, Halo 2 had 2, Halo 3 had 4, Halo ODST had 4, and I think Halo Reach has 4 as well.
So what I'm going to say, Nathan, is I would be open to playing alongside you if it was like part of a 3 or 4 player party. Like the thing is that I enjoyed it. Without getting into any spoilers, because eventually we are going to do our Halo 1 spoiler cast discussion. Like, I enjoyed Halo 1 fine, but like, I would rather, like, if I'm ever going to play a Halo game through again, I would want it to be alongside at least one other person that's like a really experienced Halo player who can really kind of show me the tricks and hooks to really get the most out of the experience.
Yeah, I get you. Yeah. Growing up, Halo, I've said it numerous times, is very important to me. So I clicked with it not right away. I was actually like when I was like 11, 12 years old, even a little bit of 13, very anti Xbox, like in a big way. And then I played it one summer because I had like a babysitter or something like that, and they brought over their Xbox, and I just played the shit out of the first Halo, and the rest is history. So yeah. Anyway, Kozi, you and I played Knockout City.
Yes.
The new dodgeball based off the movie game, right?
Oh, I want to hear that. Oh, really? Is Vince Vaughn in it and Ben Stiller?
Yep. Yeah, 100%. Totally. No, it's not at all based off the movie, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Does somebody say if you can dodge a wrench, you can dodge a ball? Is that?
I may have thought those words when playing it.
Yeah. Shout out to Key Balance. He joined up with us and played this game with us on Monday's stream, and his presence was very much appreciated because he had a little bit of prior experience with it, and I think definitely was able to help coach us through some of the finer points. Yeah, this game's a lot of fun. So I didn't really mention this on the stream that we did together on Monday, but a couple of months ago, I played a little bit of Ninjala on the Switch. Did anybody here by any chance play Ninjala?
No, I saw it. It looked like Splatoon, but not.
Yeah, artistically like Splatoon. Very kind of similar to this game, though, in the sense that it was like, hey, this is an online-only experience where you're heading into closely knit multiplayer matches with other players. You're leveling up your abilities. You're gradually acquiring cosmetic items, and there's like, digital currency, and you can pay if you want to get the cool stuff faster. And I remember playing that game and being like, hey, I find that the control scheme here is just a little bit too complex and hard to wrap my head around. And B, more than that, I just don't find that like anything about the game is particularly satisfying to control. Not in the way that you think about it being satisfying to kind of like splatter around paint in a game like Splatoon. What I will say about Knockout City is I do still find its control scheme also a little bit hard to wrap my head around right now.
It's a little cumbersome. It's a little cumbersome at first.
But like tossing the ball back and forth, or trying to knock out your opponent with it, is like really, really satisfying in like a very kind of like visceral, like Mario jumping or Link swinging his sword kind of satisfying way. And so this studio, prior to releasing this game, worked on Mario Kart Home Circuit, and like I do wonder like how much coaching they received from Nintendo on this game during Mario Kart's development, because like this definitely has that Nintendo like sheen of quality to its gameplay, and I am so happy about that.
Yeah, so one of the things that I talked about when playing that was it reminds me a lot of, like, stylistically, it reminds me of Sunset Overdrive in a way. Like, this is all like weird future and stuff, and Sunset Overdrive wasn't quite that. There's like, even the way you like run around and everything feels kind of like Sunset Overdrive, to almost to a fault, to where all I kept wanting to do is like jump up on the ledges and grind the ledges like you do in Sunset Overdrive. And do some wall runs and all that fun stuff, because I think I think that could make it a lot more interesting. It's super fun and basic the way it is now. And Key Balanced also said during the stream that you know it would make for an interesting level, where if that was the feature of a level. So yeah, I think it remains to be seen, right? Go ahead.
Oh, sorry, I was going to ask. I interrupted you. My apologies. I was going to say, do different characters have different abilities?
No, it's just just everybody's the same. It's just you just go. The character is custom character that you create.
Oh, okay. You make the character. I understand.
Yeah, and actually, that's something that's really interesting in the aspect of like inclusivity. When you're making a character in the game, you can pick two body types, but it doesn't gender them specifically. Right. There is a more masculine form for sure, and then there is definitely a feminine form that is kind of noticeable, but they don't name it that. But then also there are more masculine faces and more feminine faces, and you pick from those base faces, right? And it just different ethnicities and stuff like that, and that it's really interesting because you can just mix and match and choose whatever suits whatever your style you're going for in that, and it's actually it's actually super cool the way it does that.
Yeah, very much going the Animal Crossing route, or like, well, not just Animal Crossing. This is a route that a lot of video games have been going up as of recent, of like just sort of pick and choose whatever body parts you feel suit your body the most.
Yeah, exactly. Which is super cool and forward thinking and progressive, and I like it.
So yeah, I as AJ has said, it is a little bit basic right now, but obviously we're really at the kind of precipice of this game's life cycle. Hopefully this won't just prove to be a block party that was popular for only a weekend, and then it won't really be able to recapture its original glory again. I'd like to hope that this game will continue to remain popular for some time to come. Right now, I don't know how much longer I'm necessarily going to be playing this game. I was definitely drawn to it because hearing the way people were describing it, I was like, oh man, this reminds me a lot of the way that people were describing Apex Legends when that game first came out. And, that game became one of my favorite games of the past 2 years. Nevertheless, I am going to be playing it next Monday on stream on twitch.tv/Press YYZ, and possibly the Monday after that. So if you want to take part in the volleyballing shenanigans, by all means, hit me up, because we are definitely going to continue to keep an eye on this game and play it some more. Yeah.
It's super fun. How long it'll stick around, I don't know. But yeah. I definitely enjoyed my time playing with you and playing with Key Balanced. That was fun. Speaking of fun, I found myself falling back into Minecraft again. it's a very, very comfort food game. You can kind of see behind me a little bit. You don't need to make it full screen. Don't worry, Kozi. I joined a last summer. At one point I had joined a Giant Bomb unofficial server and kind of built a base there, and then I started getting the itch to play some Minecraft again, and I went onto the server, and lo and behold, my base was still there, untouched. Did not get griefed. Did not get nothing. Got stolen. Nothing. So I was just like, "This is great. I've already made some progress." Yeah. No, it's a very neat, well moderated Minecraft server and stuff like that. So
That's nice.
Yeah, they not very many people play on this server at the same time. Despite it being you could have probably 300 people in there at a time if you wanted, but it's for me, it's just comfort food. And right now, with my current health issues and whatnot going on and all the unknowns and everything, I definitely needed that comfort food. It's very comforting. Another thing that brings me comfort, but I have yet to play, is science fiction and Kozi.
The entire
Mass Effect
genre.
Yeah, all of science. The entire. Yeah, absolutely. I wish I could be in the future. There's an old expression where we were born too late to explore the world and born too early to explore the galaxy. And I feel that heavily. So through things like Mass Effect Legendary Edition, I can do that, but I haven't yet because I've already done that. I bought the fucking helmet, and I still have yet to play the game.
That helmet must have stealth technology integrated into it, because it just appeared out of nowhere when you grabbed it.
Yeah, it's crazy.
It was flashing.
It's same with my microphone too, apparently. You've been playing that, Kozi? How you liking it?
I have. It's funny to go back to your expression about how, we're too early to explore the galaxy. I discovered on my playthrough of Mass Effect 1 Legendary Edition that Shepard was kind of born at the perfect time to explore the galaxy, because he, she, or they, within the timeline of the Mass Effect series, was born, I think, 3 years before humanity made first contact with the Turians, which is something that I don't know why. I played Mass Effect 2 and Mass Effect 3, and I never really kind of caught on to that detail beforehand. Mass Effect 1 Legendary Edition thus far is a fun time. I'll say this. It's interesting, to play through Mass Effect 2 and Mass Effect 3 and to know the plot of Mass Effect 1, but to have not really watched a I watched a playthrough video of the entire game, not have read a really in-depth moment by moment breakdown of what happens in that game, to build up in your head this must be what happens in Mass Effect 1, and then to go back and actually play it and actually experience it as it is. One thing that I was surprised / disappointed by is discovering how kind of quickly the main core cast of that game comes together. So in Mass Effect 1, it's you, Shepard, it's Kaiden Alenko and Ashley, your two human compatriots. It's Rex, the Krogan. It's Garrus, the Turian, fan favorite. It's Tali Zora, the Quarian, and it is... Come on, I need to go 6 for 6 here. What's her name? Come on, she's the most iconic character of them all. The blue.
Are you talking about Liara Tassoni?
Yes, Liara Tassoni. I'm so sorry to all the Liara fans that I didn't remember that one off the top of my head. I was really close. I got all the other names and all the other races, but that one eluded me.
Good job.
All of the main characters that I just listed, except for Liara Tassoni, you encounter, you at least have the option of encountering within the first couple of hours of the game. So when you kick off the Citadel for the first time, you already have Rex, Garrus, Tali Zora, and the whole crew, Sans Liara, in your party. And I remember kicking off the Citadel thinking this almost feels like George Lucas wrote this. You know what I mean? From the perspective of, I'm playing through the game out of order. I'm playing Mass Effect 2 first and Mass Effect 3 second, and in my own universe, Mass Effect 1 is sort of like the Star Wars prequel of the Mass Effect series because of the order I'm playing through them. But then again,
Wow.
I think about it, and it's kind of like, well, you could argue that with the original Star Wars movie, A New Hope, like Luke, Chewbacca, Leia, Han Solo, and the whole crew kind of come together really fast in that movie as well. And nobody really kind of criticizes that movie for that. What I will say, though, I've been kind of like being a little bit critical of the game over the past few minutes. What I will say, though, to speak positively of the game is that like all of the lore, all of the characters, all of the voice performances are fantastic, as you would all expect. I was, I think that for many years I've been led to believe that Mass Effect 1 was way more kind of obtuse and like less polished of an experience in Mass Effect 2 or 3. And certainly there are a few areas where you can see that BioWare is still kind of coming out of the original Xbox era and still coming to grips with the 360 era's, hardware and, just the overall style of storytelling from that generation. But even so, the game still feels like great to play, and particularly combat, at least thus far, is something that I found totally easy to wrap my head around, which is like, again, to the subject of people talking about the first game being obtuse. I remember many people saying, oh man, I prefer the combat being a little bit more streamlined in Mass Effect 2. And so it's been kind of a relief to go back to Mass Effect 1 and be like, oh no, combat here is totally fine. There are a couple of things I think could use a little bit more refining, but like it's still totally enjoyable.
It's been a handful of years since I played through the Mass Effect trilogy. At the very least, I think it was 2014, so 1 year after 2013, 1 year after Mass Effect 3 came out, because I had to wait for that dust to settle before I could even consider getting into it. No, I always found trying to go back to Mass Effect 1 kind of difficult, just because of the way it plays, and I think some of the menus are a little much in terms of its RPG-ness, which is fine. That's exactly what they were going for. But it's also kind of understandable why they kind of tweaked that and made it a little bit different and a little more streamlined. I will say, I think with the Legendary Edition, I think one of the reasons I'm having a hard time potentially getting into it, like enough to even buy it, is because they didn't really do a lot of work to it. Not to say that they didn't do any work at all. They increased they've done visual enhancements. They redid some of the geometry based on those visual enhancements. It's just, I think it deserved. Maybe it's too soon for it. Maybe we needed to wait another 10 years or so. But I think it deserved like a Final Fantasy VII remake style remake of Mass Effect 1. Not because it's outdated, but because technology now, we could do so much more with that style of sci-fi. It's I don't know. I've not exactly I haven't resisted going to get it. I just haven't felt inspired to get it, if that makes sense.
I get it. I mean, I didn't get the Mario All-Stars collection when that released, because the only game in that collection that was really motivated to go back and play through was Sunshine, and Nintendo very adamantly didn't change anything about that game for that collection. So I was kind of like, I'll just, if I really need to, I have my GameCube copy. I can always boot out.
Bless you.
Bless you.
Sorry.
Good one.
I do want to know something about Mass Effect 1, though, that I was wondering if you could help me out with. Is it okay for me to go ahead and sell any items that I pick up on the battlefield? Because that's one thing I've been really confused about.
Yeah.
You know, you pick up all sorts of like guns and armors and whatnots from caches in levels, and I don't know if I'm making a mistake selling these like sniper rifles or pistols that it would seem like I could theoretically use for myself, and that maybe I ought to be holding on to and swapping and comparing with some of the other weapons I have in my inventory.
I always played with just the assault rifle. That was just my preferred way of playing. And so everything else I just mostly sold. I believe you can compare the stats and everything and see what kind of does better. But in my memory, you know, the majority of each weapon of each weapon type just typically felt the exact same. So it doesn't inherently matter. You just find what kind of works good and kind of what's doing the most damage, what feels good, and you go from there. So
okay. I'm playing the game right now on normal difficulty. I am going to want to do like a insanity difficulty playthrough at some point, because you can get a trophy for that, not from the Mass Effect 1 Legendary Edition trophy list, but from like a separate trophy list that's for the entire trilogy. And so the way I see it, I have the entire first playthrough of Mass Effect 1 to kind of wrap my head around the way the inventory system works, and then after that I'd imagine that I'll be able to have a better shot of figuring out insanity mode based on that.
Is it 4 platinums for that game? Or does it just have a few extra trophies beyond the existing lists?
The trophy list for the entire collection does not have a platinum trophy attached to it. Okay. It's just like you get a gold trophy if you romance a partner in Mass Effect 1. You get a gold trophy if you rekindle a partnership that you had in Mass Effect 1 or start a new one in Mass Effect 2. Like it's basically a lot of trophies assigned to you doing things over the course of all 3 games. Hence why it's its own separate trophy list and not attached specifically to Mass Effect 1, 2, or 3.
Gotcha. Okay, I see. So these extra trophies are just like basically completing all 3 games on the Insanity. But if you want to say you 100% it, you have to do that.
Yeah.
Okay. Gotcha. Cool. I'll get to it at some point. I haven't played it, but at this point, I'll wait for EA Play.
Yeah. I think that's
it should come there eventually, right? So. Whatever. Anyway, moving on from that, Kozi, you also played Control and some of the DLC.
Yes, I did. So I just want to start off by asking, Alex Vallant was the one who actually inspired me to get into Control Ultimate Edition. Did either of you play through this game all that much? And by the way, if I've asked this on a prior podcast and it is completely it's
been a week.
Brain. More than a week technically. If this is something I've completely forgotten that I've asked, please, I'd like to apologize on my own behalf.
I have not played through Control at all. It's one of the ones I kind of wanted better hardware for, and now that I have better hardware, it almost feels like the moment's passed, even though it's supposed to be really good, but like, I don't know. It's just I haven't been in the mood to play something like that.
It was free on PS Plus earlier this year when they launched the PS5 version of it. I put an hour or 2 into it. I saw what it was doing. The spooky horror games have never quite gotten to me. Well, it's not spooky horror. It's still got that like aesthetic to it. So I didn't keep playing. It is something that I might go back later and play.
I would say that if anything, one of my few small complaints of Control is that I actually do wish that there were a few segments of it that were a little bit more horror-esque, where it was a little bit kind of less clear what was going on. I would say my single biggest disappointment with the game is that I do feel like too many of the enemies that you fight are just sort of generic. Oh, this is an NPC with a gun. This is an NPC with a rocket launcher. The really kind of monstrous enemy characters that don't resemble anything human are kind of few and far between. Other than that, though, the Control was really, really great. Just a really great Metroidvania inspired action adventure game with great story, great performances. Actually, story does end on a little bit of a weird note in the base game. But the 2 DLCs that Control is followed by, the Foundation and Altered World Events, both continue it in great fashion, which I also played through. The Foundation basically has you going into the basement of the Bureau of Control, which is the large, spacious office building that the entire game takes place inside of. It gets real weird. There's a lot of the basement is like this craggy cave with red dust everywhere. But it's a solid kind of follow-up to what the main game has to offer. The second of the DLCs, though, Altered World Events, I think is really where it's at. So that game, I'm just going to go ahead. I'm not going to go full bore into spoilers, but I am going to activate the spoiler alert graphic just for those of you at home who may have played through a certain game by the name of Alan Wake before and don't want to be spoiled because... Altered World Events, the second of Control's DLCs, basically has you tracking down a certain character from 2010's Alan Wake inside a new department of the Federal Bureau of Control. All the while... sorry?
Altered World, Alan Wake.
Yeah. I mean, it is Altered World Events with an E at the end, so you'd have to find something.
Alan Wake Experience.
That's what I thought it was.
It's it has you, the DLC basically has you tracking down a certain character from the original Alan Wake, all the while learning about the fate of the titular Alan Wake, and also sort of setting up what's to come in the future in the Control universe. Well, what I really liked about this DLC, and I wrote this on Twitter, is that I feel like the base version of Control was a little bit insular in terms of the way that it fleshed out its universe, where by the end of it, I really believed in the weird world of the Federal Bureau of Control, but it didn't feel like the universe existed much beyond the Bureau and its excursions outside of the Bureau to kind of capture and control weird altered world events or supernatural events or whatnot. One big thing about the DLC remaining very light on spoilers is that it really does get into hey, there are a lot of other groups and organizations out there in the world who are also as aware of these supernatural things as the Federal Bureau of Control, and basically it's setting up how in the future inevitably Jesse Faden, the protagonist of Control, is probably going to have to go to head with some of these organizations. There is also a pretty big spoiler at the end of it for the potential for an Alan Wake 2, although there isn't much details in that spoiler beyond the fact that it's definitely, you can tell, something that's currently on Remedy's minds. But yeah, all that to say, I feel like I definitely need to make a point of playing through Alan Wake 1 at some point, because I feel like I kind of did myself a bit of a disservice not playing it before playing through this DLC, but obviously I still enjoy this DLC very much.
So there was Alan Wake, and then there was Alan Wake's American Nightmare.
Yes.
Am I remembering this correctly? And American Nightmare was a different style game? Or was it similar?
Yeah, I believe so.
I can't remember. I'm not sure.
Yeah, the original Alan Wake is one of those games that back in the day I probably looked up the plot description for, just because I was intrigued by its premise. Alan Wake's American Nightmare is one of those games I'd never really remember looking up, because I remember it being small and downloadable and not really hitting in the same way. And I can't tell you off the bat how American Nightmare relates to the events of the Control expansion. So yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. Did you, sorry, AJ, did you, or Nathan, did you play the original Alan Wake?
No. There was, I think it may have been a behind closed doors E3 demo or something like that, where they were showing off the technology of the engine that was Alan Wake. And in this thing, they generated a very a random dynamic tornado, and it picked up a car, and the person's walking around, and like 5 minutes later, the car finally comes back down and nearly crushes the player character. And I went from seeing that, getting super excited about the possibilities, to then seeing like game trailers of Alan Wake itself and what it was going to be and all that, and it's just like, this isn't necessarily what I was hoping it would be, and then I just completely avoided it. Yeah.
All right. Well, I'll definitely want to get around to that at some point.
Yeah. It by all accounts, Alan Wake seems like it was totally fine. It's just not for me at the time.
Sure.
Nathan, if you were talking, we could not hear you. Just, your Discord is flashing, but we cannot hear you.
Yeah.
So you might be okay in your recording, but don't know what's going on there. Maybe try leaving the Discord call and come back into it. That may help you.
If you
live podcast, folks.
Yeah, and of course, if you need to do so, it's totally not an issue on my hand. I can just quickly.
Yep.
Oh, hold on a sec. Is Nathan going to come back?
Yep.
Oh.
There he is. No. Still don't hear you, Nate.
How about now?
Now we hear you. We don't see you though.
I had to switch to my RTX off. Oh, did my RTX die? That's probably what happened.
That could be what happened.
Yeah, the app closed.
The NVIDIA
it does
broadcast?
that randomly. Yeah. Well, it's just for me. It's NTX, the RTX voice app. Because I don't have one of those fancy cards.
Okay.
I'll get that fixed. Sorry, guys.
Yeah, it's not a problem.
You can turn your camera back on at any point. That's okay, though.
I experimented a little bit with RTX ahead of this episode, actually, and I wasn't able to really wrap my head around it as much as I could have. So I'm not. Nobody here is going to blame you for being confused of why it randomly shut off. It seems kind of like a fickle program.
There we go. I think we're back.
Yes,
there you go.
Okay, cool. Perfect.
There you go.
Sorry, guys.
All right.
No problem.
No worries. Anyway, on that note, I guess, why don't we go ahead and move on to a nice, light, easy topic of the show.
Hell yeah.
All right. Who pitched it? Was it you, Nathan, or was it
Kozi pitched this?
Kozi, you pitched it. What are we talking about?
Yeah, so I figured that, with just the three of us here, it'd be fun to, go nice and easy and just talk about some of our favorite summer gaming memories. Right now, on the date of recording this episode, it is the 26th of May, 2021. Less than a week from now, we will be well into June. And the thing is that I know that this isn't like exactly the beginning of summer according to the dates on the calendar and whatnot, but I feel like you tell somebody, hey, June is summer, and they're going to be like, yeah, 100% June is summer. You tell somebody May is summer, and you might get a little bit less certain of a response. So with that in mind, let's talk about gaming in summer. I'm going to just go ahead and start off here and talk a little bit about the Pokemans.
Ooh.
As we all know, I'm a huge fan of the Pokemans, and I, especially in summers past, was a huge fan of playing the Pokemans on my Game Boy Advance or original DS Fat in the car with my parents when we would all go on road trips together. One thing that I used to do back when I had all the time in the world on my hands is I would beat one of the games. Like I would get to the end of Pokemon Fire Red, beat the Elite Four, do most of the post-game stuff. And then after the post-game stuff, I'd be like, you know what? There are a bunch of Pokemon in my boxes that I have not yet leveled up and gotten the Pokédex entries for their evolutions. Like I have this Larvitar, for example, which only evolves into Pupitar at level 35 and Tyranitar at level 55. Let's take him and let's take a bunch of other low-level Pokemon and let's just play through the entirety of the Kanto region again, kind of slowly leveling up gradually and surely all the while. I could theoretically just like rely on other tactics to level up my Pokemon real quickly, like just feeding them a bunch of rare candies, or like having them participate in a fight where I put them up against a really strong opponent, and then I switch out one of my more powerful Pokemon, have them take out the stronger opponent, and then relinquish half of the XP to Larvitar and have them level up real fast. But back in the day, having all the time in the world in the car, I'm like, you know what? Instead of doing that, I'm going to just sort of casually make my way through these regions again because I have all the time in the world. And yeah, that's an example of a summer gaming memory that is very fast stuck in my head. What about you guys?
One is keeping it slightly Pokemon related. I brought it up on the first episode of the month. I think it was 68. No, I was not here for 67. Episode 67. I was talking about Pokemon Snap.
Wait a minute. The first day of May was May 68th? I don't know. I don't know why my brain jumped to that.
No, it was the week Pokemon Snap, new Pokemon Snap came out. But the Pokemon Snap memory I brought up there, and I'll just bring it up here again, was my dad. I was really hyped for it. My dad bought it for me over the summer, and I beat it in about 4 hours.
Yeah.
Right.
It's a really quick game, and I technically beat it, but I was still having fun with it. I was going back and trying to take the best shot possible. I only slightly credit it with kind of generating my own personal interest in things like photography and whatnot. My grandfather is the biggest influence on that. But it only took 4 hours, and I remember my dad being fairly upset that it only took me 4 hours. But I still liked it enough that he felt like it was a good idea to ask the local Blockbuster to give him the window display that they were getting rid of, and It's currently sitting in my garage here. Yeah, the old Pokemon Snap window display. So,
but now, just to be certain, by beating the game in 4 hours, does that also include like getting every single Pokemon in the Pokédex and like photographing Mew, for example?
Yeah, I got all the way to Mew and saw credits. It's credit rolls.
Did you have the help of like a strategy guide or something? Because like
no,
that game's not especially long, but like there are a couple of environmental puzzles that you have to solve in that game to like fully get everything.
Yeah, it was fairly straightforward, and I got to Mew pretty quickly, and it was yeah, it was disappointing in that regard that there was not really any actual depth to it, but it was still interesting and entertaining nonetheless.
Well, Nathan, I think it goes without saying that if you don't have a summer Pokemon gaming memory, the two of us are going to be very disappointed in you. So what's your summer Pokemon gaming memory, Nathan?
Yes, so my summer Pokemon gaming memory is about a game called Breath of Fire.
I love that Pokemon game.
It's an RPG. I fell in love with Breath of Fire, the series for the Super Nintendo when I was a kid. I played Final Fantasies, I guess at that point 4 and Mystic Quest and Legend 3 on my Game Boy. And I was still getting into RPGs, but Breath of Fire just felt really neat. It was very... the characters looked different. It was a Capcom game. The first one was published by Squaresoft. The second one was published by Capcom themselves. And the first one was okay. They're both available on Virtual Console. I've talked about them before. I think it's my favorite series of all time for RPGs. And number 2 is probably my favorite RPG of all time. But it was a fun, unique game. There were, in the second one specifically, you could combine your characters into different characters.
Ooh.
Like turn them into each other. There was what was really interesting at the time, there was actual talk about religion, because early, like you're helped by this church early on, and it turns out, spoilers for a 30-year-old game at this point, or 25-year-old game. I don't know, it's old. The church is actually the bad people.
What?
And yeah. And it was very funny because years later, I read an article about Xenogears and how they kind of had a similar plot, but nobody batted an eye back on the Super Nintendo because nobody cared back then about video games.
Wow.
But yeah, you could turn your character into dragons. You can combine multiple characters. There was a village building aspect to it. It did a lot of really neat things, and I just like fell deep in with it. It had great characters. All the characters had like an ability on the overworld map, which kind of made it like a Metroidvania. As you got new characters, you could go to different areas on the overworld map that you couldn't go to before. There was no creature collecting. I'm going to be honest, my summer memory, kids memory, Pokemon wasn't a thing then. So I think we've talked about this before. I've only really played Blue, and it wasn't during the summer, so I just don't have memories to go along with that. I'm sorry, Kozi.
Yeah, it's not.
I know I disappointed you guys.
It's not a problem. So, it's funny. When I was thinking about some of my summer gaming memories for today's podcast, I was trying to think, so what are some of the other, non-Pokemon summer gaming memories I have? I know those are a blasphemous set of words, non-Pokemon summer gaming memories. For whatever reason, one of the games that immediately came to mind was Super Paper Mario. Now, this is the third Paper Mario game, the one that released on the Wii. It did away with the turn-based role-playing game form of the first two Paper Marios, but it still very much kind of preserved the story and soul of the first two games, what with its zany cast of characters and whatnot. So that game, it's actually, there are ties to AJ's story of renting Pokemon Snap. I basically, for many years, I never actually owned that game. I only rented that game, and I'm pretty certain that the summer that I rented that game, I kept renting it so many times in a row to kind of see all my way through it and get all the collectibles in it, that I probably ended up spending more money on it than I would have spent on it just buying it firsthand. Which is too bad, because in retrospect, it's I probably should have just, bought it firsthand, even full price at the time. And yeah, what's funny, right, is that Pokemon, Super Paper Mario, these are not games that I feel particularly have summertime as a focus in either of them. Paper Mario in particular, you're traveling between dimensions, each of which vary greatly in terms of their tone, focus, and sunshininess. But whenever I think about just a really hot Montreal summer, you walk around a little bit during the day and then you come home at night to your nice and frosty basement and you plug a game in your game console and you just load it on up. That's kind of the first game that comes to mind. It's just sort of seared into my brain in the same way that the sunshine sears into your back and causes blisters and sunburns if you haven't applied sunscreen during the summer. AJ, I know it's blasphemous, but what are some other non-Pokemon summer gaming memories that you have?
Oh boy, I mean, I mentioned the one with regards to Halo, the one that kind of got me into Halo and Xbox in general. But so okay. My parents got divorced when I was 7 years old, and my dad lives in California, and I lived here. So I'd go visit him every summer, and my summers were usually filled with they were kind of adventurous. Sometimes we would fly, but other times, because it was definitely a lot cheaper, we would drive across the country, and that was a lot of fun, right? And so, I've got lots of memories of actually playing Pokemon and stuff on the way and whatnot. But actually, on the way, we would sometimes hit up different arcades and stuff when they were still open and around back in the day. I remember my dad and I beat the arcade Jurassic Park light gun game where you sit in like the Jeep and it drives around, and we just kept pumping quarters into it and doing that. Yeah. There was one day we went to a different arcade somewhere in the States, and I just walked up to one of the Simpsons arcade cabinets. A couple other people were playing it at the time, I think. I think it might only be 2-player. There were a couple people standing around it. One guy was playing, and they asked if I wanted to play, and so I popped in a couple quarters, and then we ended up beating the game, and that was fun. But yeah, the arcade experience is something that is, even though like as an adult, like if we were to like go to an arcade bar or something like that, it's not quite the same. Like the only place you could really get that experience these days, like especially around here, is like going to Canada's Wonderland or something where they have like an indoor arcade. But there was one in Vegas that we went to, and I played the shit out of Crazy Taxi. Arcades and stuff over the summer are a very good gaming memory for me.
By the way, just quickly to go back to The Simpsons, if the arcade game that you're referring to is the Konami one from 1999, yes, that one did involve 4 players.
It was the old beat 'em up, side-scrolling beat 'em up one where like Maggie gets kidnapped.
Yeah, that's the one.
Yeah, is that the one? Okay.
Yeah. I definitely ran away from my grandmother's house once over summer and went to the bowling alley to play that where I'd seen it.
Yep.
And they didn't know where I'd gone. I as we were driving home, was looking at the street so I could figure out how to get back there. It just disappeared one day so I could watch people play it. I didn't even have any money to play it. And then they're like, "Where are you?"
Yeah.
Nathan, you talked previously about your summer Pokemon gaming memories with hit Pokemon game Breath of Fire. What are some of your non-Pokemon summer gaming memories?
Oh, my non-Pokemon summer game memories. I don't know if you've heard of this game called Pokemon Blue. No, I'm kidding.
Got him.
So like we can go back, like when I was a kid, you kind of have a game and you just have it. Like, and I think I brought it up before, but one of those games where your parents bought it for you, so it's kind of what you had and you kind of just had to like it. It was Cool Spot for the Super Nintendo.
I feel like we talked about this one a little bit.
We've definitely talked about Cool Spot before. So I won't go too deep into it, but Cool Spot's like you play as the mascot from the 7-Up games, or from the 7-Up bottle, and you're literally going around these levels, which in hindsight are crazy difficult, and nobody should have ever been able to beat this game, collecting all the spots around it. And I don't even remember what the main reason was. This is back when like Chester Cheetah got a game, and a bunch of different characters. They're like, oh, we got these mascots, we can put them into a video game. So it's not a great video game in any fashion, but for whatever reason, there was a summer where I beat it. And I didn't know, we definitely talked about this, because I brought up the fact that there's a cheat code, or there's a code at the end of the game that you can mail in to them, and they would send you a prize.
That's right.
Oh yeah.
When you finish the game, because at that point the internet wasn't a thing, and the code, if you did that nowadays, the code would just be spread all over the internet.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I'm actually kind of surprised gaming magazines didn't publish it or something.
You should try and beat the game like legitimately and send in the code to whatever the address is and see what happens.
Yeah, there was that one like, wasn't there like some video from a couple years ago where they took the like coupon for like a free pizza from the back of the TMNT VHS Xbox, and they like brought it into a Pizza Hut, and they're like, yeah, you know what, we'll accept this one time. Like, maybe you can do the same thing.
Just because it was fun. Yeah, maybe.
That'd be interesting to see. I'm sure I don't even have to beat the game, because honestly, I don't think I'd have the patience to try and beat it. I'm sure it would only take a few hours, but the hit detection's terrible. Like the hitbox on the character is terrible in that game. Now that you go back and look at it,
Watching the gameplay of it, it reminds me of a California Raisin. You remember those characters? Yeah. Was there ever a California Raisin game? I don't know.
I don't think so.
Wait,
this was much cooler than the California Raisin.
Yeah, it's a cool spot.
Quick question. I'm aware of what the California Raisins are in the sense that I know what they look like. What were the California Raisins created to promote? Were they made to promote raisins?
I think they were promoting
raisin.
Yeah. There is a video game called The California Raisins: The Grape Escape.
Oh, I do remember that. It's a Nintendo game, isn't it? Original Nintendo?
Yeah, NES.
Yeah, I do remember that. Now that you've said that, the name The Grape Escape, I was like, oh, I do remember that. I never played it, but I definitely read about it in Nintendo Power.
It was made by Capcom.
Yep. Capcom actually did a lot of good licensed games back in the day. But a lot of them were Disney. Disney franchises that ended up being good. Yeah, I remember this game.
Oh, it actually this game got canceled. It never came out.
Did it?
Really?
Yeah, maybe like a ROM leaked or something, but it says according to the Wikipedia here, Capcom planned to publish the game in 1990, but the release was canceled due to the California Raisins' dwindling popularity because of the decline in raisin sales in the late 80s and early 90s.
Huh. So when I say I've seen it, then like Nintendo Power published games before they come out, so maybe that's where I saw screenshots of it, because obviously they had stuff, like assets and stuff for it.
Yeah. So I don't know. The reason earlier why I asked like what is it that the California Raisins were made to promote is because I just find the idea of like a mascot being created to promote like dried fruit really weird. On one hand, I think it's kind of clever to be like, hey, we need to get kids to eat healthier food, so let's create mascots to get them excited about them. But just the idea specifically of creating a mascot to promote raisins is just really weird to me.
Yeah.
They haven't been used since 1994. That's their last appearance in something. Wow. At one point, I had a little figure that would like toys for them when I was a kid.
Yeah, I think I had some of those too. And they had like bendy arms.
Yeah, bendy arms.
Yeah.
Huh.
So,
apparently there was going to be a reboot of them, but that never happened.
Oh man,
I think there should be at least like one episode of a thing or something. Just it.
For sure.
It would be funny if they did a movie that featured old mascots that nobody uses anymore. You get Cool Spot, you get the California Raisins.
Make it kind of like Wreck-It Ralph, but
for mascots,
like those for those other mascots instead of old video game characters.
Hell yeah!
I think there's money in that actually. I think that's a good idea. I mean, because there's tons of characters like the alphabet,
seal it
the
in an
alphabet
envelope
wizard.
and send it to yourself. That way, nobody can steal it from you.
Hell yeah! If we what I would love about that movie is if they could somehow convince Nintendo to get like the version of Link and the version of Mario that appeared on the Nintendo Serial System box. Like they got the rights to both those characters, but only as they appeared in the 1980s on a cereal box. And it's their movie's equivalent of like having Bowser in the like Villains Anonymous meeting scene, for example. That'd be pretty cool.
Well, before we wrap up the actual topic of the show, unless you guys have others that you want to add really quick, I thought maybe we'd bring in some of the Twitter responses because we have a couple of them here.
Sure.
I've got one more, but let's do the Twitter first.
Sure. All right. So I'm over at on the twitter.com. It's a website. I don't know if you've heard of it.
Never heard of it.
Press YYZ. And there's one here from somebody by the name of Mr. Mitch George. He must be new follower. New.
I've never in my life heard of anybody with a last name that's Mitch George.
Yeah, no, not at all. It's crazy.
Yeah,
I wonder what his
first name is. Maybe it should be George Mitch.
Yeah, I don't know. It's weird when somebody has like a first name as their last name, but when they have two first names as their last name together, that's where things get extra weird.
Yeah, it's a little weird. Anyway, this person wrote in and said, thinking it was so cool to trade Pokemon wirelessly in Fire Red, Leaf Green with a friend. I would only see over the summer. We'd try to see how far apart we could be before it stopped working. That's actually an interesting testing the limits of technology.
Yeah, of the little adapter you would put on your GBA.
I've done like similar tests with like Bluetooth headphones these days, and like, okay, I leave my phone like on my porch and walk away as far as I can until the sound stops, until it disconnects. I've done fun little tests like that. It's super cool.
So the fact that he didn't follow up with that tweet by saying, hey, it turned out really badly for the two of us, leads me to believe that there were no issues with them testing the limits of those Wi-Fi adapters. I will say, though, like, I personally would not have done that, because I would have been really concerned that, like, I would have accidentally corrupted the data in my games, or that the Pokemon that I was trying to trade in my copy of Fire Red would have been accidentally lost.
Yeah,
I'm assuming that it probably worked out okay for Mitch and his friend.
Yeah, well, clearly it's a good memory for him too, and yeah, no, that's super interesting thought. The next one
podcast.
Here,
the bad
absolutely.
gaming memories.
Yeah, bad ones. Yeah. Another one here from Justin D at Justin on Twitter. My gaming memory is playing Grand Theft Auto Vice City in the summer, and then the infamous blackout occurred, and we didn't have power for 3 days.
So,
man,
I have a question. Can either of you explain to me this infamous blackout that he's referring to?
Yep.
Yeah, Nate, I was a kid at the time, and so Nathan, you probably remember it better than I do.
I would have been 19, I think, when it happened.
Wow.
Because I just moved to London and we were living at my parents' house. My parents were actually gone for the week up at the cottage when everything went out. But essentially, power dropped out in Ontario for like 3 days.
Ontario and some of the northern States. New York.
Yeah, some of the New York.
Yeah.
Something happened with our power generators, and we literally lost power, and it was a multiple day thing where there was just no power. You had no TV, you had no internet, because even if you had a laptop which would run on a battery, you couldn't charge it if it died, and the router and modem didn't have power to give you signal. So it was just kind of a disaster. I just remember drinking and hanging out by the pool
That's a good
for those 3 days. To kill time.
What we do you remember what was the okay? I'm gonna Google this. You go ahead, Kozi. You say what you're gonna say.
No, I was gonna say I feel like we don't really get blackouts anymore. I feel like it would be such an interesting experience to actually get a legit blackout and be like, okay, I have my Nintendo Switch, I have my Game Boy Advance, I have my original Game Boy, I have X and Y portable gaming systems. I have to somehow use these strategically so that they can last the next 3 days / week / however long this power outage is going to last. Like, that is...
Okay.
Go ahead.
I was slightly older. I'm looking at the timeline of this now. It was 2003. Yeah. So I actually would have been working at Radio Shack in my early 20s. And now that we're talking about this, I actually remember because the malls couldn't run. The malls were shut down. So there was no work, no jobs to be done. Everybody was home because you couldn't go to your places of work.
Sounds familiar. That's weird.
Yeah. Much smaller thing. Although getting you pretty much had to live on whatever groceries you had, and you could only open and close your fridge so much because you didn't want to lose any of the cold air in the fridge.
Jesus.
Which at least now you can do that, but you had to be rationing if you only open that fridge when you needed to open the fridge.
So this being August. The date of this was August 14th, 2003. I would have been in California and completely unaffected.
Huh. Yep. Yeah. You probably would have been fine.
Landlines still worked, so I could still call my mom and stuff, but that was it. So
Yeah. This was, I remember this, like I said, it's still, whether I was working or not, or I wasn't working, the age, it still was pool and drinking. That's how I solved my issues here.
that's fair.
Yeah, but everybody just kind of had the time off. There were no, like, even getting around the city, if you had to get around the city, all the lights weren't working.
Yeah.
So
Stoplights were down, everything. Yeah.
yeah, so I don't know. Yeah, it's quite the memory.
Yeah, I hope that I just want to say I hope that Justin D didn't lose any of his progress in Grand Theft Auto Vice City when the power out hit. Because, like, can you imagine?
Did autosave exactly then? When did autosave happen?
If I remember it, well, autosave happened in a lot of games, but I don't think Vice City had it because you had to go to your safe house and like sleep to save or something.
Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, that could have been real bad for him. And that if I didn't have my Game Boy, you know, at the time, and I had to have gone through that would have drove me nuts. But I was lucky to be in sunny California at the time.
Sorry, hold on a second, guys. My cat, Jackie, is currently walking all over my Mario Legos. I need to get her out of here. Jackie!
Okay.
Jackie! Go ahead, kill time. I'm going to get Jackie out of here.
Wow.
All right.
I wish I need a pet.
I'd like a dog one day.
I've got a dog-shaped hole in my heart because I had a dog as a kid. And I've got a dog-shaped hole in my heart now, and, you know, no animal to fill it, unfortunately.
Future podcast episode: best video game pets.
Best
pets in video games.
Pets, or would it just be like maybe best companions? Because there's probably some video game pets that fit.
I want to get Jackie out of the basement, but she's sort of like she's nestled herself into this small little space in between a couple of my desks here. And if I try to like, get her out of one spot, she goes into another spot. It's a whole big deal. But I'll keep an eye on her. She's no longer on my Legos anymore.
Well, that's nice of her to listen.
Kind of.
All right. We have one final tweet here from Brad Shankar. My fondest are definitely from staying up until like 2 or 3 a.m. playing Halo 3 online with my younger cousins in Florida when I'd visit. I'd drive the Warthog, one of them would man the turret, and the other would ride shotgun. I got so many wheelman medals. I, too, was a Halo driver when I would play with my friends online. I was the guy constantly driving and jumping over things and running people over as best I could. But ideally trying to make sure my passengers didn't get shot, which was nice.
Maybe he could play Halo with me. He sounds like he might be an expert.
Maybe he could if he's listening. If he's listening to this episode.
Hey, Brad.
Hey, Brad. How you doing? Yeah,
I think you
show Nathan how to play Halo.
Yes.
Yeah.
I need to learn.
Yeah. All right, Nathan. You said you had one more.
Yeah, so you bringing up the arcades actually brought up something else in my head, and this is an arcade memory. Do you remember a place called, and you guys might be too young to even know what this place was called, Wheelies?
No idea.
So Wheelies was a place where you could go and rent roller skates. And when I mean roller skates, I don't mean roller blades. I mean four-wheeled roller skates.
Okay.
And you would skate.
You went to the roller rink.
I went to the roller rink.
Yeah.
You skate around the roller rink in circles as they play music, and they have a live DJ playing music. And then there was also an arcade which you could go play games. And there was this one game that years later I tried to track down and find a copy of called Tumble Pop. And basically you played as one of two vacuum guys with this vacuum, and you would suck the enemies into the vacuum, and you could suck a bunch of them all up at once. And then you could shoot them out of the vacuum. It was kind of like a 2D Luigi's Mansion.
Huh. I have never heard of that. The name doesn't make sense.
Nathan, does it look like the game I'm currently showing on screen?
Wait, I'm pulling it up right now. Yes, that's it right there.
Okay.
Looks like there was also a Game Boy version.
Yeah, and that's why I was careful, because I didn't want to pull up like the wrong version of Tumble Pop and Nathan to be like, oh no, that's not it.
So I remember this was an like, as far as I was concerned myself, this was an arcade only type game, but you could like combo these, like suck enough of these people up, start at the top of the stage, and then they'd like blow down the entire way of the stage as you sent them down to each other, and you could like get stuff for it. So I just remember, like, there were lots of games in that arcade, but this one for whatever reason stuck out. And I just remember, like, obviously it's not like permeated culture enough for you guys to even be aware of what it is. But it was a cool game. And we used to play it at the Wheelies. I also found out much later in life that Wheelies was also where people bought drugs.
What?
So
Who would do that? Who would do that? Honestly, this just kind of makes me want an actual 2D
Luigi's Mansion.
Because that would be super cool.
There'd be, you know what? I think there could be money in that. I didn't love controlling Luigi's Mansion when we got the Switch one.
Yeah.
But I think a 2D one would feel much better potentially.
Mm-hmm.
That could be interesting. Nintendo, here's a perfect idea. Do it.
Absolutely.
At the end of each stage, the Tumble Pop brothers do these poses that are very reminiscent of the Ginyu Force from Dragon Ball.
Hell yeah.
I don't know what the
also didn't know that was a thing back then. Dragon Ball, didn't even know what Dragon Ball was.
Yeah. Whew. Well,
Wow.
it certainly was quite the find. Tumble Pop never would have known that this existed.
Quite the trip down memory lane too. That's for sure. Yep.
So,
all right. Anybody else have anything they'd like to contribute or say, or should we wrap things up for tonight?
I think we're good to wrap up now.
Yeah, I think we're good. There are many other games that I played throughout summers past, including like a lot of other games on the Game Boy Advance in particular. But I think that I more or less succinctly got in the heads of all our viewers, hopefully this evening, what it was like back in the day to enjoy a nice cozy summer in the back of the Kozi car.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, for sure. Well, I suppose with that, it's time to say thank you for tuning into this episode of Press YYZ. If you enjoyed what you just heard, be sure to share and subscribe to our YouTube channel, rate and review us on Apple Podcasts, follow us on Twitch, etc., etc. You can also check out Press YYZ on Twitter to stay up to date for when we go live. Join us on Discord. It's at invite.gg/Press YYZ to keep the conversation going. Feel free to put in any of your any of your summer game memories into that Discord. We'll definitely be in there. Sure. I don't think we've settled on what next week's topic of the show is going to be. Last time we did that, it didn't quite work out so well. So I think we're just gonna stay radio silent on that for now. But until then, thanks for playing.
Later.
Take care, guys.